On today's Apple Daily, new AirPods images emerge. Adobe and others up their game on Apple Silicon. We've been rendering in Blender. Could Apple TV's next generation be 8K? MacBooks pushed to late 2021. And iCaveAnswers.
For the latest Apple news, rumors, and leaks, every weekday at 12 UTC, join us in the iCave.
I'm iCaveDave and I simplify Apple so that everything just works for you, and we are pushing towards getting 10,000 subscribers on this channel. We've not quite hit 5,000 yet, so it's a bit ambitious, but you can help me out by hitting that subscribe button, and if you let me know down in the comments that you've rung the bell as well by using hashtag notification squad, you can join the squad and you can get a shout out just like the guys at the end of today's video. But let's get straight into the news, because again, there's quite a lot to cover, so we might as well get on with it. First up, new AirPods images have emerged. It looks like some of the leaked images, including those from 52 Audio over the past month or so, are likely to be accurate for the AirPods 3rd generation that are coming in the very near future. Looks-wise, they're a cross between what we have in the original AirPods and the AirPods Pro, with shorter stems. They have a slightly more rounded, kind of futuristic look to them. I mean, they still look a little bit like little hairdryers, but by all accounts, they're fine. Now, there is a little bit of controversy as to whether they are going to have silicon tips or not, because some of the renders have them, some of the renders don't. So it might be they were testing something and some people saw that. It might be that they've never had them. It might be that they will definitely have them. We just don't know at this point. But it looks like they're designed to fit in your ear without one of those little buds on the end of it, specifically because the pictures that we have show them in a case and there is no space added extra for those buds to sit. In terms of features, we are expecting to see spatial audio come with these. That's the one that I think will come. I don't think we're going to get active noise cancellation, but from the images that we can see as well, the ear sensor is actually a little bit bigger, the kind of window on the inside of the earbud for it. And I wonder if that is going to be used for something like a pulse sensor or a temperature reader. Either of those would be a really cool upgrade, giving a bit more health acumen to the AirPods. But we will see. Next, Adobe ups their game on Apple Silicon. Photoshop's main release now supports Apple Silicon, even though there are a handful of features that are still missing. But for my workflow, there's actually nothing that puts me off. And the biggest thing for me that has come back is the content-aware fill, which is basically where you can kind of select a person in an image in the background and click one button and it will fill their space with stuff that looks like what's around them. It's absolutely magical. The Apple Silicon beta version is still listed on the Creative Cloud app, but I assume that's for testing even more new features, and I will probably stick with the main build now that it's here. I have been using the beta up until now. Premiere Pro, After Effects, Rush, Audition, and Character Animator have also got new features rolled out today, along with speed upgrades, although these are less specifically for the Apple Silicon updates and more for Macs in general, but most of these features will spill across too. Not from Adobe, but Blackmagic's DaVinci Resolve has also moved their Apple Silicon support out of beta and is full support too, so it's a good day for creatives. Blender renders, we have the Apple Silicon early builds. So I've been running some early builds of the Apple Silicon enabled version of Blender's rendering app, and we rendered out one of Apple Tomorrow's iMac model animations. And while it took 47 minutes and 27 seconds to render on the Rosetta 2 version using the main build for the Mac, using the pre-release version for Apple Silicon, which we had to kind of build ourselves using the repositories in GitHub, that time came down from 47.5 minutes down to just over 32 minutes, which I think you'll agree is a pretty decent chunk. 15 minutes off of that time is a really good result. Obviously, we fired up some of the more kind of typical BMW render, which is kind of one of the basics that everyone uses, this BMW, and we rendered that, and it wasn't any different. Inconclusive at this point. It was certainly faster in this animation that we were doing. The BMW test really just kind of threw a spanner in the works for what I was going to talk about today. But we're going to do some more testing. We're going to test it. It's certainly still faster than like an i5 Intel from earlier this year, because we've tested it against Saad's Intel MacBook as well. But it wasn't substantially faster, at least in the test that we were doing. But also the GPU rendering is not kind of working as far as we can tell yet. So we will keep an eye on this, we will keep trying it, and we will keep you up to date. Next up, Apple TV could get 8K. Now, this is a very sketchy rumour that I saw on Twitter. It looks very much like someone has kind of mocked up some marketing materials, it doesn't look 100% to me to be something that's real. But sometimes you do get a little bit of truth for some of these rumours that someone's made their own kind of graphic for it because they've seen something real. And then that's what's leaked out and it doesn't look real and then it appears. So we don't know. This is not something that I'm confirming or denying at this point. But if Apple was to release an 8K TV box, the big problem you would think is that nobody has 8K TVs. A lot of people still don't have 4K TVs, but there are certainly 8K TVs on the market, and Apple does like to push things a little bit, but there's also very little to watch in 8K. But, and this is where it's different, if Netflix decided to start putting out 8K content, which I think they do, there's like 5 or 6 things that you can watch, and there's also kind of the demo stuff that comes on a TV like that, where you can watch some flowers like you do in the shop. Apple is making hardware and software, and now content. And the content side is the important thing here. We don't know how all of the stuff that Apple has produced so far has been made. It could be that everything they've already put on Apple TV Plus, they have 8K versions of at home. They might have produced everything in 8K ready for the hardware to come out. And they keep extending this Apple TV trial that we've had to a little bit past now. So I wonder if they've been kind of putting off making us pay for Apple TV Plus because they had something massive that they wanted us to see at the same time. And now that this is ready, maybe they're going to be like, oh yeah, now you have to pay. Because I tell you what, it will be the only 8K stuff that you can get, and anyone with an 8K TV will subscribe in a heartbeat. So as I say, I don't know if that's what's happening, but I would definitely want to watch For All Mankind in glorious 8K. It'd be like being on the moon yourself. And have MacBooks been pushed to late 2021? There are multiple reports on Apple news sites that MacBook production of 2 models has been pushed to late 2021, and everyone is assuming that they are the 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros, but I don't buy it. Mark Gurman of Bloomberg, before the first Apple Silicon announcements, was talking about the 16-inch models already being in production at Quanta Computers, so I don't buy it at all. I do think that there are more notebooks that are being pushed back in production, but my best guess would be that those are the redesigned MacBook Air and possibly the MacBook SE that we've been talking about for quite some time, and all of a sudden today other YouTubers started talking about MacBook SEs too. Now I think that all of the M1X range will be introduced together, just like with the M1 range all being introduced together. Now I personally still think that the whole of the M1X range will be introduced together at the same time, just like with the M1, and it's just different bodies around the same chips. So iMacs and higher tier MacBook Pros would be released together. Then at WWDC we'll get a glimpse of what Apple's been working on for Mac Pro behind the scenes, and potentially get a release at the end of 2021, because that's what they've done quite a few times with their Pro models. The Trashcan 2013 model, the iMac Pro, and I think the last Mac Pro as well, all introduced at WWDC and all on sale in December. So that's my theory at any rate. I think if anything else does happen, there might be a website refresh of the current Mac Pro, the Intel one, which may have the option of some different Intel chips. But I wouldn't hold my breath for that at this point, with the way that the relationship seems to have deteriorated between Apple and Intel. And surely the whole point of getting the Mac Pro in the first place with the Intel ones is that you can kind of upgrade them yourself. You don't really need to wait. So let's get into some iCaveAnswers. First, Arthur Swart. iCaveAnswers, do you think a merger of Apple Glass and the watch could evolve into a headless iPhone? Now from that, I'm going to assume that you mean kind of all your notifications would come through on your watch, and then you would use your Apple Glass or your AR headset as kind of your interaction kind of point. And I mean, they could certainly put gesture control into the watch and things like that as well. So I mean, absolutely there's a possibility. With the AR headsets though, we are looking at those being independent of an iPhone, so I don't think that that is going to be something that relies on the iPhone as its main kind of input method, although it might be, you know, something that you use with an accelerometer. There are a lot of patents out there at the moment for Apple Watch with haptic gloves that you would use to control things within the AR environments. So I'm not 100% sure exactly what you mean. I would love for you to kind of elaborate in another comment for me. But yeah, I can imagine we're going to get to the point where we're not using an iPhone to look at and hold in our hands when we want to do things. I think Siri will take over a lot more duties than she does right now. The AR kind of style of unobtrusive interaction with technology, I think, is going to be an important thing, where you kind of get very subtle updates that come through and don't really distract you as much, but they're just there and you can carry on with your day. I think that's probably what the paradigm will look like. Thank you so much for the question. The Hand of Count Patofi asks, iCaveAnswers, what about the screen size of the top-end new iMac? 32 inches, 36 inches, or still 27 inches? And I think this is something that we've covered a couple of times. I think that most of the rumours that are out there are talking about between a 30 and a 32-inch display diagonally, which is a nice step up from the 27 inches that we have now, especially when you're going to have the smaller bezels, so the actual body of the thing is not going to necessarily grow as much. A 36-inch iMac, I think that's probably a little bit too big for most people, but that being said, I'm using 40-inch TVs as my displays for my Mac Mini, so who am I to talk? And finally, Notification Squad. Brian Eccleston, Robert Berry, Val Kitchen has renewed his vows, and Alan Campan Gaming, thank you all for joining. If you want to shout out at the end of a following video, all you need to do, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and post up hashtag Notification Squad down in the comments once you've rung that bell. Then I can give you a shout out. That's just how the game is played. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.